But you guys want to get started? We can just jump right on in.
Let's just jump right on in. Yeah,
All
let's do it.
right. Well, since Lauren is back and she's been on a hiatus for so long, why don't we start with Lauren, who saw The Devil Wears Prada 2, which is funny enough a highly anticipated movie this year. So, what did you think?
I really enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. As we know and we've talked about time and time again, sometimes a sequel is not needed. And in this case, I thought it was a really nice next chapter where you get to see Andy Sachs, who is played by Anne Hathaway, and really continuing her journey career-wise as the first one. Did you both see the first Devil Wears Prada?
I have you.
Andrew, you've never seen it?
No, but it's funny though. Saloni was like, "I want to see it too." So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Is
Yep.
it really a dude movie? Is it?
Um, I mean, it's definitely chick flicky, but at the same
Yeah,
time, like
totally.
there's a lot of story and plot that you can kind of get behind. I mean, there's backstabbing and all this in industry stuff, right? Because it's in the fashion industry, so
Corporate America stuff though too, Andrew. That
yeah,
kind of ties it.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
like the gist of the movie of the first one is that Anne Hathaway somehow finds her way into a job for um why am I blanking on
Wall
her name?
Street.
Yeah, Meryl
Meryl Streep.
Streep,
Oh, wait,
who
yeah.
is a fashion maven. Like she is everything, right? If she says it, it's true and it's gold.
Well, based on like Anne Winter, I believe,
Could
right?
be. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so she gets hired on as basically like a low level assistant. And then above her is
Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt's character, who is very snarky and kind of mean. Like she really
Yeah.
doesn't want to see her succeed because she would rather succeed herself.
Yeah.
And then, Stanley Tucci is like Meryl Streep's advisor, kind of fashion buddy of some kind. I don't remember exactly what his role is, but he
It's her
takes,
right hand, basically. She
yeah,
does a lot of
yeah.
the
And he takes Anne Hathaway under his wing. And then it's about her rising up through all of this and all the difficulty of being, basically a normal person in fashion, right? Like she doesn't have that expertise or that knowledge and ability, so she gets whooped on by Meryl Streep, she gets whooped on by Emily Blunt, like she takes a lot of crap. And then it's all about, her kind of success story through that movie. Um, kind of think of it like, there's the Michael J. Fox movie back in the day, The Secret of My Success, right? Like, or How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. Like you climb up the ladder, and try and work your way up to the
I was
top.
thinking
And
Working Girl,
sure, sure, yeah.
a little bit of that too. Uh, but yeah, first movie, it's one of those early 2000 movies where there's a lot of well-known quotes, and I think
Mhm.
more so, of course, among women. Most women, I think millennial women have seen that film.
Well,
Yeah.
and two, Andrew, Alex, original uh,
Yes.
APNC guy, one of his favorite movies. He
Well,
he
check
actually
this out.
loves it.
We're gonna get to it in a second, but she, Meryl Streep, I always respected her, but she said something about Marvel
Yeah.
films, and that was like, yeah, nope. Now yeah.
What did
Mm-mm.
she say?
She basically said that Marvel films don't have nuanced villains, that it's very black and white. And I'm like, well, tell me you haven't seen Black Panther without seeing Black Panther, for example.
Yep. Yep.
So I hate it when people talk out of their ass, and that was a very talk out of your ass statement. And I'm just like, yeah, don't say dumb shit. So anyway, I'm just not a fan of what I call fuck it, basic behavior. And I think that was a very basic thing to say. So anyway, so it's like, for me, it's like, you
Very
know,
general more than
it,
anything else. It's not her lane because she's not she's not their target audience.
and I'm not her target audience. So
Which
it's
is
just kind of like,
fair.
You
That's
know,
fair.
but the thing is, but I don't say dumb shit about her shit. Like, that's the difference, you know? So it's like I leave the rom-commy, all that shit alone because this is not me, right? But then you have to sit on your fence and talk shit about my man, fuck you. Pardon my French. I'm just being real. But anyway, I know again, it's not for me. So it is what it is. But I don't want to yuck your yum. So boom, go with it.
I think for the corporate ladder
Yeah, I
theme,
would appreciate
as
it.
Kevin and I alluded to before, you would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the second film, very similar cadence in how it starts. Andy Sachs, Anne Hathaway's character, leaves at the end of one, gets a job as a journalist, which she went to school for, right?
Yep.
And she leaves the world of journalism. I'm not going to try to give too much away for our viewers, and also Kevin when you see it, Andrew when you're forced to see it. Um, and she makes her way back to Runway, which is the publication magazine that um, Miranda Priestly, Meryl Streep's character, is the editor in chief of. And she takes on a new role. Instead of being an executive assistant, she is now a writer and is helping them out of a very sticky situation at the very beginning where they get into some trouble at Runway and they need a good writer to help them. And that's where Andy comes into play. And Emily Blunt's character, you learn, is no longer at Runway. She is at Dior, as in the fashion company. And she's an adversary at this point. And they're put in a situation where Runway is at risk again, like the first film. So very similar theme, but 20 years later. So you can see that Andy Sachs has grown professionally and she uses her experience of both the fashion world and, her world of writing in the journalism um, profession for, at this point you would think, like 20ish years since she was last at Runway. And yeah, it just very similar humor. I will say this film brings out a very soft, a much softer side of Miranda Priestly, whereas she's very hard in the first film. She
Hmm.
still has her, her wits about her, of course, and there are definitely scenes where you're like, that's totally a Miranda Priestly line, but she's very vulnerable, much more vulnerable in this film than in the first one, which I think gives some humility to her. And uh, she's getting to the age where she's going to be retiring. So I think for her, a lot of this film is based on reflection of her career for many years, being the figurehead of this publication and what's to become of it down the line when she officially decides to leave. So Stanley Tucci, another great performance by him. He is still, her her left, well, I want to say left-hand man, but her go-to person. And I think again, like he is just biting the bullet, and he's someone who has put up with all of her shit for many, many years, but he has stuck by her and she does acknowledge his loyalty in this film.
Hmm.
Whereas if you recall in the first film, Andrew, I'm not Andrew, sorry, Kevin, she kind of screws him over.
Yep. Yeah.
And yeah, but yet he still is at Runway. And in this film, she continues to, and that's just kind of how business is. Unfortunately, people get screwed left and right. But yeah, and then you have situations where you have like an Andy Sachs who really cares about others and wants people to win, even the Miranda Priestleys of the world. And yeah, I thought it was a really good job. The fashion was fantastic. They have, in like the first film, they're in Paris, they're in Milan. In the second one, they have another fashion show. There are some celebrity guests that appear in the second film, which are really exciting. So yeah, I think my theater was filled and I think it's sold out. I got tickets well over a month ago, and there were a group of, I think, 18 of us that went in my girls group. So
Wow.
well attended. I think the last time we had this many women was when a bunch of us saw Snow White, which was March of 2025. This was a
Mm,
much better film than Snow White, but
uh,
nonetheless.
yeah, looking at the Rotten Tomato scores, it looks like
Solid.
yeah, but it looks like it's not as well received as the original.
Fair.
Would you
Yes.
say that it's still while good, maybe doesn't quite hold up the same as the original? I mean, it's definitely different, right? We're talking about more mature characters at this point.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's 20 years later, but the story is very similar. It, has the dips and the whole cadence of it is very similar. Granted, it's 20 years later, but and Andrew, you'll appreciate this. The topic of digital versus publication, very much so a topic of, of conversation in this film, whereas in the first film, it was all publication, and I think it was what, 2006, 5, the original film.
Something
So
like that.
yeah, so very different times. They make jokes about AI, they make jokes about just how it's a different era. The things that people cared about 10 years ago is very different than what people, care about now. And being able to be adaptable with the times. So, and I think that's something that a lot of people can resonate with, whether you're in business, teaching, et cetera, you have to adapt. If you don't adapt, you're gone. Look at Blockbuster, perfect example, right? So
Very.
another theme. Uh, but yeah, I think it's more geared towards women, but I can see individuals who are interested in business and just the trials and tribulations that you'll see when it comes to building your career and how sometimes you have a lot of politics involved, but you can definitely, if you put your mind to things and if you're good and structured and have a passion to continue working and getting to where you need to be, I think, you can overcome that and definitely put your mind to rising to whatever you're looking to fulfill.
One thing I will say too is I actually thought about it. I've never seen an Anne Hathaway film I didn't like. Now, to be fair, I know that there's a movie where she serves with some animated characters, and I refuse to see that movie. I think it's like The Princess Diaries or something. Either way, so I refuse to see that.
The one she does with Matthew McConaughey is pretty shit too.
Okay, I don't know.
Which isn't her fault. It is actually a pretty good film until their plot twist near the end that is the stupidest plot twist you could possibly have. Um,
But she's been in some bangers, whether you're talking
yeah,
about Interstellar, whether you're talking about The Dark Knight
yeah.
Rises, whether you're talking about even Brokeback Mountain, or
Miz, Les
what's up?
Mis,
I
Les
haven't seen
Mis.
yeah, I haven't seen that, but I'm sure it's good. But yeah, so Ocean's 8. I know that one didn't even like necessarily like it wasn't like I don't know if it was a hit, but I remember I did see it in the theater. And I was like, this is basically jewelry porn, and I guess jewelry like literally just does something to women or something. I don't know. I'm not sexist, I promise. But I swear to God, it was jewelry porn. It was like literally like jewels, jewels, salivation, salivate, jewels. Um, Now I sound like I'm in Euphoria because that girl's name is Jules. Anyway, um, yeah. So yeah, no, it sounds like Devil Wears Prada 2 was solid and it's doing well at the box office. So
Very well at the box office. I think
Yeah.
this is what a lot
100,
of women have been looking forward to for months.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like I said, every seat filled.
yeah,
I had to go through, and just so you know, Andrew, I went to the one on the Upper West Side, 84th and Broadway.
that's a nice one.
It is a nice one. All the other I call it the recliner AMCs.
Yes,
I booked this a month and a half ago. We're all like mostly sold out a month and a half ago, with the
that's
exception of
insane.
like the first two,
Yeah.
rows, which I won't take. So this was our option. Yeah, that was our only
Watch a
option
movie
for
like
the
this.
Saturday. Yeah, I'm not doing that. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it's not a movie that I'll call a cult classic, right? Because it was bigger than that. But at the same time, it sort of has that status
100%.
where it's a movie that has been talked about since it's released
oh, for sure.
and is, like I said, is widely loved. I definitely think there's things about it that you would enjoy if you watched it.
Same.
And if you end up being, kind of forced to watch it, um, I don't think you'll be disappointed. The acting really is good. Stanley Tucci is For me, he's like the scene stealer in that movie. Like Meryl Streep's amazing. Like she's a phenomenal actress.
We're all
She
good. Yeah,
plays her part
all
so
fantastic.
well. Emily Blunt is fantastic in her part. Anne Hathaway's great in her part,
Yeah.
but Stanley Tucci is like he's just the guy that he kind of always steals the show. He's sort of um,
He's the glue, I think, of that company and just making sure everything rolls smoothly at the company too.
It's like the guy in Ted Lasso, who has a family, who's basically kind of like, like part of the Diamond Dogs crew.
nowhere near that doofy though.
Okay, but he plays a similar role.
Yeah, but I think better at his job.
Sure.
Like he's definitely um, like if he wasn't there, that place
Would
would
fall apart.
fall apart
Correct.
because nobody would be able to deal with Meryl
Right.
Streep's character.
Yep.
She's just so like authoritarian and so just like my way or the highway and all that that I don't think I don't think any company with somebody like that would survive without a Stanley Tucci like character to
Smooth it out.
either take the heat off or to be able to kind of translate some of that energy into something else.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I'm definitely curious about it. And for me, I'll probably wait until it comes out. But yeah, I feel like too, is this the first real big movie of the year?
I
What?
think Project Hail Mary was the big movie of the year.
Oh
So,
yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. But yeah, this one and the fact that they decided to make a sequel, and just kind of let it age, right? Like they didn't try and make it, oh, 5 years after, we're going to make everybody look younger.
1 years after.
Yeah, it's a pretty smart move. So
Totally.
I think it'll have legs. I think it'll do real well. And just looking at the
Even New York City
reviews,
did a great job at preparing for this. There are shirts that were being sold at Old Navy, a lot of places just with the quotes from the first film. I know throughout the city, like more so Hudson Yards and Midtown area, Andrew, they had a lot of like there was a red heel, which is one of the symbols and commonly
dramatic.
used. Yeah, just about they've had, just really good promo. I don't want to call them props, but just great way of just promoting the second film, sort of like
Mhm.
what they did with Wicked throughout the city.
New York, man. New York is one of the places to be. I'll always love that city.
Yeah, for sure. So go see it.
yeah. All right. Well then, Andrew, why don't you tell us about this movie about some guy named Michael?
Michael. So I want to do the right thing in reviewing this movie because it absolutely is near and dear and core to a heat of horror. Sorry, I had to do it. In terms of like my growing up, especially in the 80s. Um, when they announced this movie, I was very like, really? Like, you're gonna make a movie about this dude who is now so divisive, like in pop culture? You're gonna make a movie about this? Okay. And I thought the odds were against this movie. I thought that the chances of it failing and flopping were so much higher than it doing well.
Yep.
So then the Rotten Tomatoes comes out, and right now it's at 38% critics. And but then I started to notice that Questlove from The Roots, like he posted a glowing review. And then all of a sudden I started to see um, a pretty stark divide in terms of who liked the movie and who didn't. And everyone that I kind of identified with loved the movie. So when I went in and saw it, my expectations were actually higher than just neutral. And having come out of the movie and having, just the credits roll, and I'm sitting there absorbing what I saw. I loved it. I loved it. I actually think that if Jafar Jackson gets nominated for an Academy Award, I think as in Best Actor, I think he deserves it. As soon as he opened his mouth and started talking, I literally like nudged Saloni and said, "Wow." Like he sounded just like his uncle. And when you watch the performances in the movie, Antoine Fuqua was a director. He's got to start music videos. What a lot of directors get to start
Yeah.
music videos. But anyway, it's it's eerily, it's like it people have said it's like you're watching Mike. And I'm telling you, it's he I I'm blown. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, I think it's the best biopic portrayal as far as actually looking and emulating the subject of the movie. I think the closest thing to it would be Bohemian Rhapsody. And I think that that's the only film right now that is so, as far as biopics are concerned, that is above this movie, but it might overtake it. That's how well it's doing. 97% audience.
Yep.
And so to me, it's like, yeah, I think the critics got it wrong. Now, I'm going
Well,
to jump into the controversy unless you want to say something.
well, I was going to say what we've seen historically on this show when we
The
talk
biopic,
about
yes.
biopics is that um, critics are especially hard on them because if you don't meet what they expect to see factually, they will tear a biopic apart. And I think that's probably what happened is this didn't meet the expectations. I know one of the problems, and I know you'll probably get around to it, but one of the problems that this film has is that it does not engage in the controversy at the end of his career. And one of the reasons for that is not because the directors weren't interested in telling that story.
Correct.
It was because they weren't able to because of victims' rights. And so there was, I don't know the exact details, but I know that they weren't able to tell the story of what happened because, and maybe because the victims were minors at the time.
It's not even that. Basically, Jordan Chandler was the one who accused him in the early 90s. And as part of the settlement, you couldn't talk about that case as part of the settlement for that. So that's what I understand. But to me, more importantly, I'm sorry, Michael had a much longer career than pretty much anybody else. So you skipped over a lot just to get to Bad 1988, and then the movie ends saying his story continues. So to me, it's like to try to cram everything into one movie is it like, what are you talking about? Like my brain goes, you're an idiot if you think you're gonna handle all of that in just 2 hours. Sorry, like there's just too much story. The guy was a superstar
Yes.
as a preteen, okay, in the Jackson Five. So basically, the movie starts off obviously as like he's a kid in Gary, Indiana, practicing Jackson 5. It's only the first 20 minutes. And this is where I got to give props to the kid who portrayed young Michael. OMG. This kid had an amazing voice. They're actually doing their own singing. And it's like I think that, our boy Tom Bateman actually, or Dennis Bateman, one of the two, they said no one's talking about this kid and he needs to be talked about. And Saloni was like, the kid was amazing. Anyway, so the first 20 minutes is the Jackson 5 young Mike. And then you go into older Mike, which is like, and you're skipping over even the Jacksons, really, so it's like they had a lot of albums that go right into basically Off the Wall, 1978. And then, you go into like, the Thriller era. You talk about Billie Jean, you talk about Thriller itself, you talk about Beat It. And then you go into basically kind of the mid 80s and then the Victory Tour, 84. And then it's the last show of the tour. He's like, peace out, dad. Peace out, family. I finally want to be on my own. And then bad. And then the movie's over. And even then, it's like they skipped over so much. But I think that the highlights of the film is the choreography. I think that, I mean, he's a dancer, right? So to me,
Yep.
it's like being able to actually emulate Michael's moves like that good as his what's it called, and just even his mannerisms. It just has to be seen. I am looking at the cast on Google right now, and I can see all these people who are cast who probably had roles in the film that it just got cut. You know, scenes were cut because there just wasn't time for it. But yeah, I just think that overall it was extremely well done. Colman Domingo played an amazingly evil Joe Jackson. The guy was a tyrant. Nia Long played Catherine Jackson, his mom. Miles Teller plays like his lawyer, who was kind of fighting for him and making sure that he got his due and certainly cleared the path. Laura Harrier, she was in Spider-Man Homecoming. She was like the kind of like the daughter
The
of
first girlfriend or the first,
yes,
yeah.
beautiful by the way. But
Yes,
anyway,
she is. She is.
she plays a Motown executive, so I just had to like call her out there. Lawrence Tate, great as Barry Gordy. And then there's a guy named Kylan Durrell Jones, and he plays Bill Bray, who was basically Michael's kind of personal like bodyguard, but he was that was a breakout role. And then who am I forgetting?
What about the guy that played Quincy Jones?
Oh, yeah, I'm not seeing him in my cast list right now, but
There's,
he did a good job as Quincy Jones,
yeah.
though, too. He really did. No, everybody brought their A game, but Jafar himself, like, I think that's his first role ever in a feature film. He's 29. He doesn't even look 29. He looks younger than that. I hats off. Like again, everything I think was against the odds were against this movie to succeed. And you know, and there's people and they have a right to, you know, to like kind of like protest it. My thing is this. Part one up to 88, no allegations, no nothing. So we're gonna leave that alone. Part two, I think, is gonna be the real challenge to deal with all that
Yep.
because, you know, it's yeah, it I don't envy that task, but they got to do it. But part one was a great look into who he was. I think it humanized the guy a bit more. And it was I think it was a triumph for anybody who was a Michael Jackson fan, especially, you know, and I do think there's a difference. Especially Michael pre-Dangerous, because I think by Dangerous he was appealing more to like basically like the European crowd and had a completely different audience for the most part. And he didn't even perform in the US. The last time he performed in the US was that tour. So I do think that there's different eras, and I am proudly, unabashedly, unapologetically, um, Mike from my favorite era would be 76 to about 84. That's like my favorite era. But then I can like go up to bad, and then everything else I can kind of take or leave.
Yeah.
I mean everything after that I can take or leave
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah. He, obviously he's a divisive character. You can't justify what he did and say, that any of it was okay. Like you can't.
Well, we don't even know if it's true. That's the thing. I mean, yeah.
True, true. Um, and that is a touchy enough subject too that how do you address that if you're going to address it? And he has talked about doing a second film,
Yes.
Antoine
I think
Fuqua.
it's all but assured.
Yeah,
Basically, it's like if the movie does well, we'll do a second film.
yeah,
But that's what I mean by, you know, because there are those who say, right, like believe all victims, right? So if you're
yep.
believe victims, then he did it. Period. You know, and again, yeah.
Well, again,
The people who are fans will say there are people who like I think Antoine Fuqua, the director himself, is like, I don't believe it, you know. So there are people who don't believe anything happened, and yeah,
Well, and that's the problem too. Like you said, the people involved can't actually talk about it, right? Because you've got NDAs, you've got all this stuff
I think it's
because there were
just
settlements.
I think it's just Chandler. Chandler is the only settlement. Everybody else was a criminal. As a matter of fact, yeah, it was Chandler was the first one. That's a settlement. The other ones are talking about it. That's what Finding Neverland's about, you
Mm,
know? So they're blabbing away. So there's no like there's no victims' rights issue. It's literally the settlement with Jordan Chandler.
mm,
And then the second one that happened in 2000, I think I want to say 5 or 6, that was also went to the courts, acquitted. So that wasn't a settlement. He only did one settlement, and it was with Jordan Chandler. And I think that was probably not the move to make. But I think at the time, it's like, I don't want to go through a trial. Let's just
let's
make
make
it
this
go.
go away. Yeah. When you've got the money to make it go away, even if you didn't do anything wrong, it's like I mean, you can play both sides. If he did it and got away with it, you know, you're looking at OJ type shit, right? Like he did something terrible and got away with it because he had the money to get away with it. And that's one very possible side of the story. The other possible side of the story is you're looking at your career and you're like, this is going to harm my career. If I can just pay these people to never talk about this again and just continue on my career, I've got the money to do that. Why wouldn't I do that? And the logic there isn't, you're not thinking about defending your career or defending yourself and moving forward, right? And you don't think about the fact that if you don't do that, there's a negative impact to that out there.
And, and, and here's something that I think the movie does bring up, and that is, and we're going off the movie for a second, but why I liked earlier Mike was because he at least had people to advise him. And
Hmm.
I think the problem is when you get too powerful, then there's nobody to check you and say, "Hey, are you sure you're making the right move?" Are you, and I think that settlements are, at least from where I'm sitting, 99.9% the wrong move.
Right?
Because I think the perception is it's an
It's an
admission.
admission of guilt. Yeah, and it may not be, but that is definitely what people see it as.
Yeah.
Like definitely, like there's just no doubt about it. Um, and that makes it tough. I mean, again, he's such an interesting subject to make a film about and to talk about because if you take that scandal out and put it further in the story, you're talking about one of the most influential musicians of all time. He's one of those people that, like, when I watch shows like American Idol or The Voice or something like that, there's like three or four people that I will always say you just don't cover. That's Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey, and like Celine Dion. Like, there's just people that you can't do without screwing it up because they're just so unique and original. Like they're just and Whitney Houston, right? Like you can't. They're just too good. And Michael Jackson had this unique ability, and people always saw it as like kind of his weird little like ticks as he's singing, right? Like he's got all those little things that he does. But I had a friend that was a competition swing dancer. He was one of the best swing dancers in the country. He won competitions all across the country. And he loved to use Michael Jackson's music for choreography because all of those little things that Mike does are on beat and on step and on point. So when you're going to choreograph that, when you're going to dance to that, it makes it easy because you can feel like where you're supposed to move just because like and it's obviously he's not doing the same choreography. He's doing his own choreography because of swing dancing, but you can feel these places where you're supposed to move and get into that. I mean, he, he was always a weird guy, Mike, but he was an amazing musician and amazing dancer.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just I encourage anyone who anyone who isn't convinced that he's a pedo to see the movie. If you're convinced he's a pedo, then yeah, you may want to skip it just because, I don't want to force you to like, whatever. But But if you're, but I again, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised at how well the movie's doing.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think that's from what I'm reading right now on Rotten Tomatoes, that's a lot of the criticism that it didn't cover that second part of his life. And it's just one of those things where it's like they don't show the ugly parts of what
but
happened.
that's the
Yeah,
thing.
didn't have the opportunity. Yeah.
It didn't even that didn't happen till the 90s. So I just think it's the stupidest shit ever. It's like you are a hater. Seriously. And I do
The-
think there are a lot of haters out there. You know,
well,
you're a fucking hater. Like you can't it happened in the 90s. Okay. The movie starts in the 60s, 70s, 80s. He's the biggest star on the planet, definitely by the 80s. So what more do you want, dudes? Like attack it in part like it's going to be in part two. Slow down, calm down,
yeah.
watch the movie for what it actually deals with. You just want to focus on that because you hate the guy.
Yeah. Well,
And that's
it's like I said, it's the thing that critics cannot do with documentaries or with biopics. They cannot accept that there's things that will either be left out or just not talked about or whatever. Because we saw it, one of the what's her name?
Winehouse.
Yeah, the Winehouse one. That one got railed by the critics, but did really well with the fans.
Yeah, but
And
again, it's kind of like, I'm sorry to cut you off though, but it's kind of an apples to oranges because that covered Winehouse's whole career, right? Like she died. There's nothing to leave out, right?
And
There
it
is so
also
much
painted
more.
her in an ugly fashion too. It showed the good and the bad in that one. This one just is so long of a career, like Andrew said, you can't possibly cover his entire
yeah,
career in 2 hours. You just can't. And if I can just add to this, both of you haven't seen the Michael Jackson Broadway show. It only covers into maybe like the late 80s, early 90s, hints that there's bad stuff to come, but that's not what the show covers. It covers young Michael up until it sounds like it's parallel to this exact movie. It does not show Michael in his 90s. It shows him at his peak at the end. I think Beat It was like one of the last songs.
Wow. Then
yeah,
that's mid
yeah,
80s.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you this too. So this movie, I obviously Colman Domingo plays his dad, and he's a
Yes.
dick. But does it really get into how bad his childhood was?
So that's the other thing. So again, that's what I mean by it skips over a lot, right? You see two beltings, right? Like you see two of those. But it's heavily implied that he beat them all. Like he even beat
Yes.
Catherine. You know, he beat them all. But it doesn't, there's just no time. But it's implied. And the way Michael like reacts to his dad, like even as an adult, when his dad says, "Come here," all that stuff, it's like you as an audience member are like, okay, so one scene he actually gets his nose job, right? He calls him Big Nose as a kid, right? So he's obviously been like fucking with Mike with just his appearance even. So when he walks, he goes, "Come over here," you're afraid he's gonna like, just hit him or do something while his nose is all bandaged up because that's the kind of guy he is. Because he's almost like laughing, like, "Why did you get a nose job?" Like not even realizing, well, yeah, if you called him Big Nose all his life, of course he's gonna get a nose job. Like, fuck. But so I would say it touches on it. Everything gets touched on. I think what you dig into is just, I think the crux is this is a guy who had a vision for himself and his career and the struggle of being able to extricate himself from the pull of being the breadwinner of like the Jackson family, with Joe being kind of like the puppet master of that whole thing. And Michael finding his own identity. That's what it was about. It was about Michael finding his own identity as a performer.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, from a critical standpoint, they want to see those things. When those things aren't there, that's what they're going to complain about. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying like we have seen time and time again that a biopic that doesn't come in hard, it doesn't come in like this is what we saw on the front pages of every thing. They'll blast it, and so I just have to assume that's really the reason that the score is so low because you look at it on IMDb, it's a 7.7, which is a pretty damn good score. 97% from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. So the people that are watching it are are satisfied with the story they're getting.
Yeah.
So critics are looking at it from, a critical point of view and saying there's information that's not being given here. But I just think, and I've said it before, I just think that they're looking at these things through the wrong lens. They should be looking at it as a movie because they're movie critics and not as historians because they're not historians.
It's
I
funny. So Rob Doan, 1 out of 5. Michael is a bland, lionizing, and lacks any insight into the life of Michael Jackson. In short, it fails at basically every aspect of being a biopic. And no, I think there was insight in there. But anyway, cool. Um, this film is so chopped and screwed that my heart beat fewer times than the number of cuts in a single scene. No, I think Cortland Kelly, I think you would just have terrible taste in music and probably life. John Liu, watching the King of Pop at his dazzling peak delivers an undeniable sugar rush, but the film's insistence on explaining away his darkness leaves a sour aftertaste. There was no darkness in the 80s. You
right.
suck too. So it's like, no, I think, and I'll just say this. The critics, I think, I'm going to go there. Demographically speaking, you know where I'm going. They are not of the genre, the soul, whatever. So you either get it or you don't. So you probably are just like, he's a pedophile, end of story, moving on. And that's fine. We know what time it is. The people at the end of the day are going to have their say, and that's that. I mean, MTV, it does get covered. The CBS Records guy had to basically threaten MTV and say, if you don't play Michael Jackson, so they didn't play Black artists, if you don't play him, I'm going to pull Cindy, Bruce, all my other artists. You can't play them at all unless you play Michael. And then they played Michael. It's an unspoken reality that gatekeepers, whether you're critics, whether you're running MTV or whatever, if you don't get it, you're gonna just hate on it. But that's
Yeah.
fine because at the end of the day, the audience will have its say, and the audience is having its say here.
Yeah. And this thing too, like this movie was made for people that enjoyed Michael Jackson's music and were curious about his career. So like it's made for a certain subset of people, and those people obviously enjoyed it. And I have to say too that I don't think Anton Fuqua is somebody that would avoid the hard topic, right?
No,
I mean, this is the guy that made Training Day, right? Like,
yeah,
he's not afraid of a dark story. He just didn't get there yet. So, I mean, if you're really going to hit this for not giving that information, wait for the second one. If the second one glosses over everything and he is, just a happy-go-lucky guy for the rest of his life and then passes away, then you can critique it, right? But you've got to get to the point where the story was dark, and like I said, he's even said he's like there's already so much that they left on the cutting room floor without even starting to film a second one that they could easily roll into a second film. And they actually had, I guess, played with the idea of this one ending, or maybe it's the next one ending, well, but one of
no.
them ending with the police showing up.
I think it might have. I think it actually might have been this one. They actually were willing to. So again,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, yeah, I keep saying it, but like the critics were idiots in this one. I mean, the ones who were keep talking about the allegations because, yeah, you're idiots. When the second movie
Focusing
comes
on
out.
the negative, it sounds like, versus
Yeah.
what what the movie
And
was trying to do.
especially when it doesn't logically make sense for the third time. The
Right.
allegations didn't happen until the 90s.
Right.
Okay. So the fact that it's exasperating. And when something's exasperating, I literally I
Yeah.
lose the ability to be tactful and just basically call it what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Idiocy, reiteration.
Yeah. And I mean, you could try and say that it's safe to cut it off before all the allegations so you don't have to deal with them. But like I said, just Anton Fuqua is not a guy that plays it safe. Like he's just not that guy. So it's just they told the story in the time that they had and chose to tell the part that they did. So we've really got to give it the opportunity to get a sequel and see what they do to complete the story.
Right.
Yes.
And I don't
If
think
the
they'll shy
oh,
away in the second. And if they do, that's clearly not showing both sides of the story because they should show the good, the bad, and the ugly, which they haven't had the opportunity to do yet.
Yeah.
yeah, and there just wasn't really, as far as we know, any bad until again the 90s.
I mean,
So if they make a second film and it's totally sanitized, then yeah, then y'all can talk all the shit you want, critics. But for this one, you're just showing your asses, and again, you're just very whack, just as humans. And I would never
some people
ever
just
want to see a
want
record
the
collection.
controversy, they feel like if there is no controversy, there is no story, which in this case, again, didn't happen until later. So why are we even having a conversation? It's talking about it from, and it sounds like it's really just mirroring what the Broadway
The
show
Broadway show did.
covered. Exactly. Childhood abuse from Joe, the yeah, I mean the Jackson Five, and then how he breaks away and spreads his wings and really just starts on his own, and how he gets pretty big 70s and then 80s when he's like the top.
And you can't be the biggest pop star of your time and have like darkness happening at the same time. When the
Correct.
darkness happens, you fall off. So on so many levels, your logic is failing and your biased opinion is like flaming. Like just ugh, yeah.
Well,
All
I'm
right.
glad
Point has
you
been
shed
made.
light on how great of a film it was, and clearly they made a good choice by casting his nephew as him.
Oh yeah, and yeah, it's Jermaine's son, which is nuts. Like, yeah, and so he was only 12 when Michael died, so he was old enough to at least known his uncle. Like,
Right.
what a trip. Like I don't know if there's ever been a biopic where a relative of that person played the role. And not only play the role, but like hit it out of the park. Again, I can't say enough. I'm saying a lot already, but I still feel like I'm not doing it justice. It has to be seen to be believed. All right, I'm done. I said I
All
was going to
right.
be short.
All right, cool. Well, I will close this out. I'll probably be shorter, but I watched the newest season of Beef on Netflix. And it's important to say that Beef is more of an anthology series than it is a long running story, right? So Beef season one, fantastic. Ali Wong and Stephen Yoon were incredible. Their relationship is fraught and tense and bizarre and so incredible in the first season that when you get to the ending and she crawls into bed with him in the hospital room, that's the perfect place to end it. It's not a happy ending. It's not necessarily a sad ending, right? Like it's sort of this ambiguous ending that is, yeah, exactly. It's this perfect meeting of these people that were just broken, and they happened to find somebody that was just as broken, and they're able to come together, um, and just I don't want to say be happy because they're definitely not, but like something clicked in them where they are maybe they'll never be romantic partners. Like you can leave that, take that however you want, but they're still in their own way sort of soulmates. Like they kind of complete each other in a way that other people don't. And so we started this new season with a handful of new characters, great actors doing, a pretty good job with their performances. I wouldn't say anybody is not performing their parts well. I would say that the characters in this one just are nowhere near as interesting as they were in the first season. A lot of this season feels just so vanilla in comparison. And it is a series of people just doing stupid things, which I mean, you could make that argument about the first season. They do a lot of dumb shit in the first season. Like, dude urinates on her bathroom floor and then leaves. Like, it's not, they're not making good decisions, right? So that stands as both. But like the title of the show is Beef because these people have a legitimate beef, like a legitimate like hate for each other that you feel through the whole thing. And then, like I said, at the end, you find out that hate is really because they're so similar. Like they're just trying to find that something. And so it works through the whole thing. Like it permeates the whole thing. This one just doesn't have that same feel. Like it's just sad people being sad and making, some poor decisions that feel like they tried to, sort of copy decisions from the first one. Like, Andrew, did you get far enough? Did you get to the orange juice scene?
No. What happened to
Okay,
the orange
well,
juice scene? No, no, you can spoil it. I don't care. Like I said, I literally, I mean, I was starting to watch and then I just stopped. I
yeah,
got,
yeah. So, I forget what she's. No, no. So Kaylee Spaney goes to the hospital later on in
yes,
the show. It's like the third or fourth episode.
yes,
Um,
I got
and and so she has to have one of her ovaries removed. She's got it's an ovarian
portion.
torsion, right?
Yeah.
Literally wrapped twice, which is why they couldn't see it at first. She was in a ton of pain. They remove it. Um, there's a misunderstanding, or maybe not, where it seems like Oscar Isaac's character is um, kind of being a little manipulative with her, trying to get her, offering her, better care if
Oh,
she
yes, I
leaves
remember
this.
that part. Yeah.
So the whole thing starts. Go back to the beginning. The whole thing starts because Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan's characters are not getting along. They fight all the time. They're in the middle of a huge fight where they're throwing things, yelling at each other. Like they look like they're about to hurt each other. Like it looks bad. And Kaylee Spaney and her boyfriend's character show up because they're trying to return his wallet. He forgot his wallet at work, and they think they're just being, good citizens. And well, they hear people yelling, so they pull up their camera and they start recording because they are afraid something bad's happening, and so they record this fight. And then the way that the beef, and I'll say this with big air quotes, the beef starts because they decide, well, maybe they can get ahead in life a little if they blackmail these people with this video. And the blackmail is so flippin' weak, anyways. She's like, I just want a better job because she wants health benefits, which in its own way is very realistic, right? Like, there's a lot of people in this country that are doing work that do not have health benefits of their job because the job sucks, right? So, that makes sense. Like that's realistic, but it's not particularly interesting for a story. So then fast forward to, she gets the job. Oscar Isaac is like, hey, I got you the job. Why don't you delete that? And she's like, oh, okay, I'll delete it. And then there's all this big paranoia about, well, I know you deleted it from your phone, but you probably have a copy of it saved somewhere. And so that's like this underlying like thing through the rest of the thing. But anyways, she's in the hospital. Oscar Isaac shows up and he's like, hey, I can get you this better doctor. I can get you in because you've been waiting for hours and hours and hours. He's like, I just need to delete him from the cloud. And she gets all, fussy about it. And then, he leaves. And so she doesn't get that doctor. And then later on, they're like, oh, well, did you end up seeing that doctor? And she gets all pissed. So she decides to exact her revenge, which is again is like stupid. And because she's young, I guess it makes sense. But it's like childish revenge. She goes over to their house and she just kind of wants to mess things up a little bit. Like she doesn't really want to break anything. Like it's really weird. It's like she wants to like, I don't know, move their knickknacks around so they're confused when they look at things. Like it's really dumb. But she's bleeding below the belt, right? And so she goes into their kitchen, opens the fridge, puts her hand in said blood, mixes it in the orange juice that's in the fridge, and then puts it back in the fridge. And so when she leaves, she accidentally leaves the door open. Their dog gets out. It's a little dachshund dog. The dog's name is Burberry. Um, and the dog gets killed by a coyote in front of Carey Mulligan's character. And so, like, you don't find like the Carey Mulligan and Oscar Isaac characters don't find out about this until later, but they do ultimately discover. And it happens a couple of different times where people just sort of discover what other people are doing because they happen to be right around the corner when they're talking about it. Like it's just there's so much about this one that is so convenient and so safe compared to the first one. Like Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan, they're never really happy. They thought they were going to have more money in life, but he's a manager at a country club and he's got a studio in his house where he makes his own music. And he's got all this stuff. Like they're not really bad off,
No.
right? But he, at the same time, has been irresponsible. We find out that he was siphoning money from the country club because he blew all the money in his joint bank account with his mom. So he's trying to put that money back by sort of falsifying some documents. Kaylee Spaney's character finds out about this, but before anything can come of that, the the Asian woman who they just call the chairwoman, she's a big deal over in South Korea somewhere. I don't know in what, but they call her the chairwoman. She finds out that this kind of embezzlement's going on, and she's like, "Wait, if you can get away with it," she's like, "I can use this to embezzle my own money." So she offers Oscar Isaac a longer contract to take what he's been doing and start doing it for her.
Mm.
And and it's just like there's all these things in this season that are uncomfortable, um, but it doesn't really build to where it should. Like if you look at the first season, a lot of the episodes are early episodes are like 7.5, 7.7 on IMDb. Like they're all right there. And then you get to the end and they start to ratchet up. Like they're nines and they're really highly rated. This one actually declines as at the last two episodes. And it ends in what is pretty much a happy ending or as close to a happy ending as you can get in a show like this. Um, Oscar Isaac throws himself at the foot of the chairwoman to save his wife, who they finally decide that they do love each other and everything's okay. So he ends up in jail. Um, Carey Mulligan and her boyfriend, played by Charles Melton, um, they basically get off scot-free. She gets Oscar Isaac's job at the club, right? And the end jumps 8 years later too. So she's been doing this for 8 years now. So she's in charge of the club. They have a kid. They get into the car at the end and they seem like they're in the same place that Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan were in the beginning. Like they're just kind of not great with each other. And Carey Mulligan has remarried. She's got a kid now. And Oscar Isaac is getting out of jail. But, he's got somebody on the inside that was kind of finding out information. He's like, yeah, man, I found out she did get married. Do you want to know where she is? And he's like, no, I'm just glad she's happy. Right. And then like, it's like the whole thing just ended like way too like clean and convenient compared to the first one.
Yeah.
Um, it just was not as good of a season. There was so much about the first one that made it good. And again, the first one is definitely a series of horrible decisions on both sides, but they're like gratuitously horrible. Where this one, they're just kind of like immaturishly bad decisions that,
I mean, yeah, they're just like stupid. Like to me, the moment you know, she's like, "You're gonna leave me," and then she just opens the car door and
yeah,
rolls
she
out.
just jumps out of the
Like,
car.
that's
Because, and
like,
the funny part about that you brought it up, when we were talking about it afterwards, is that when I was talking in the group chat, I was like, yeah, this one isn't really great. Like, I'm not feeling it, but I feel like Kaylee Spaney's character is the most realistic person in it. And I said that during that episode. And then when it got to the end of the episode, I put in our group chat, I was like, wait, never mind. I was like, I am mistaken. I take it back because it's ridiculous. Like she gets mad at him and she just throws herself out of the car And then she like falls down the hill, which is why she ends up in the hospital. And like it's just all this stuff, and you're just like, it's just it's just the magic wasn't there.
See, like to me, one of the best parts of the first season of Beef was that crazy cousin, like who ended up in that controversy later. But he was like, and I even said like he's like an Asian. Oh my God, I never can't remember his name right now, but Cal Drogo, you know what I'm talking about, the
Yeah,
actor.
yeah, yeah. Jason Momoa.
He's an Asian Jason Momoa. Like he's just hilarious. He's a big dude. He's just like all gregarious, and all his lines were hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then young Mazzino, he was good enough to get into The Last of Us. So
Yep.
like there was some like strong, and it won eight Emmys. And it won all three categories of Golden Globe. So Beef season one was legit.
Hmm.
So yes, there were some bad decisions, but in a way, I kind of got it. Like I wouldn't do this, but I understand like how, anyways, I think it's Danny Cho. I forget his name right now, but he's invincible. Stephen Yeun. Stephen
Yeah.
Yeun's character like scopes out the house, the whole thing. He's just like, yeah, like blah blah blah. And then right when he has a chance, yeah, he pisses all over her floor, just like, yeah, bitch, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Like it was like that was hilarious. Like everything they did was like, I it was. It was bad but hilarious. But to me, jumping out of a car, a moving car, because you think your boyfriend's gonna leave you, that's not hilarious. That's insane. And he even literally tried to 5150 his girl, and I think he actually wasn't joking because he had just found out she was like texting,
Yeah.
he's like, I want to 5150 my girl. Like, what the hell? So no, I just thank
Yeah.
you for saving me the time.
Yeah. I think you made a good point. A lot of the humor, like even though like the first one's very angry, right? Like the first one is very angry, but it's funny. There's a lot of moments in it that are really funny, and they come from all of your characters. They come from Ali Wong. They come from Stephen Yoon. They definitely come from Young Mazino. Like there's some stuff in there that is just you just laugh. Like it's just so funny. And
Even
there's
like even like at the church, where like the husband of his first, like the girl that was his first time, whatever, like he's all this, like he's this golden boy, but then he's actually jealous, and he's like the basketball game happens, and
yeah,
he even tries to be like, hey, like I want to get in on what you guys are going. Like just even that, like how this golden boy is actually like insecure, and he's actually kind of a dick, and he ends up losing status, and Stephen Yoon, like,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I just had to bring all of that up, It was
Yeah,
just
well, and they sort of try and emulate that again in the second one. Like, Oscar Isaac's character is like trying to be cool at the club, but he's not because he's just a manager. So like he knows all the important people there, but he's not actually important. And it just doesn't. I
it's
don't know. It just
depressing.
doesn't vibe. Yeah, it's just sad. Where the first one had a lot of comedy, this one's just sad. And I think that's where the problem lies. And again, it's not because the actors aren't good. I mean,
No.
we're talking about really good actors here.
Yeah. Everybody.
So that is not the problem. It's just they just didn't pull it off this time. They just really missed the mark. I expected, and maybe it's because like he reminds me a little of young Mazzino or whatever, but I expected the boyfriend, Casey and his boyfriend, to be funnier. And
Yeah.
there was a few moments where they sort of tried because he's kind of doofy, but then later in they tried to make him a little smarter and a little craftier. So like they didn't really know what his character was. It didn't really work. And there's just yeah, it was really disappointing because I think there there's potential there for it to be much better than it was. But when you look at the last four episodes of season one, uh, 8.2, 8.2, 8.5, like they finished really strong. Season two, it's a shorter season, so we'll say the last three episodes, 7.6, 7.8, and 6.8 is the finale.
Ugh.
Like it did not stick the landing at all. Like it just really missed the mark. And I think it's
I
not that
mean,
it's not worth watching. It's just you can't watch it with the same expectations that you had of the first season because it's just not the same thing.
which to me is like, I mean, even Ashley Park, her character was also a hilarious hater, and she ends up with Jordan Maria Bello. Like, it's like there was just the characters, I think, were more interesting in the first season. And I
Yes.
think that's the thing. Like, if your characters are not interesting, then you have no show.
Yep.
And I think that like Oscar Isaac was sort of interesting, but kind of depressing. I actually thought that Mulligan's character was honestly kind of insufferable. I think Kaylee Spaney's character was kind of insufferable too. The whole pain thing, like, my pain's a 9.
Yeah,
Okay,
like
dang.
that was supposed
And
to
then
be funny and it didn't land.
and then she's like, wait, so I thought a 5 is like no pain. They're like, no, 0 is no pain. And she's
Yeah.
just like, oh, well, and yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't funny. It was just like, wow, you were an idiot, and that's why your life sucks. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just
It's
like,
true.
I'm
Like you can't
done.
it's just yeah, the stuff that was supposed to be funny just didn't land. And I don't know if that's a script. I don't know if that's directing. I don't know really where the problem was, but it just didn't land. Like if you had given that same pain line to young Mazzino in the first season, like I can actually picture him having that same conversation and you'd be dying because
Because it's his delivery. You're right.
you'd be like this fucking idiot. Like and you just be into it. But she's supposed to be like relatively smart and clever, so this
Exactly.
doesn't make sense. Like the things that they tried to make funny just feel so out of character for the characters that it doesn't work. And yeah, it just didn't hit. And but you're right. Like I've always said, when it comes to telling a story, character has to come first. Like character has to come first. And it's I say it about novels, movies, anything, because if you're not interested in the people, it doesn't matter what they do. Like you have to care about the character. It doesn't matter if your story is amazing. If your story is phenomenal, I will say if your story is phenomenal, you can probably
Then
get away with the characters not being interesting. But when you're in any kind of middle ground, you have to lean towards the character because people have to connect with those characters. And if they can't, it doesn't matter the situation you put them in. Because like the last two episodes has these characters running around South Korea for their lives. Like they end up in South Korea, they're being chased, like they're afraid they're going to die. Like people are getting shot at one point. Like it should be wild and frantic.
sounds like
And
interesting,
yeah,
but
and you just don't care because you're just like, I hope they all lose. Like you're just like it's just a mess. And like yeah, it's just nowhere near as good as the first season. Like I can't say no, I can't. Like I'm not even sure I recommend it. But if you do watch it, you just can't go in with the expectations you have in the first season. The first season was so award winning and so brilliant
yeah.
um, that it set a very high bar for itself, and it definitely missed the mark in this one. So.
Yeah.
And then so that's what I've got for that. And then the other thing I will just throw out there really quick because I have to is if you have MGM Plus, which nobody does, um, the show From is back for its fourth season. It's the third episode is tomorrow, so by the time this drops, the third episode will be out for the fourth season. This show is amazing. It stars Harold Perrineau of Lost and what's the one that everybody loves that Andrew and I haven't watched because we suck? The Wire. Um, Harold Perrineau is awesome, very good actor. This show I feel like is the way I would describe it to somebody is if you took Lost and you made it a horror show and then you made it in modern times, so you're talking 8 to 10 episodes a season. This is what you would end up with. And the gist of the show is that some people will randomly, um, they'll be driving down the road. They'll see a tree in the middle of the road. When they get to that tree, they try to turn around. They are now effectively in the loop, which means they cannot ever leave. They get stuck in this town and they become part of this town. And at night, monsters come out and they want to kill you. And like that is the very, very loose gist of the story. I don't want to give too much away because it is a bit of a mystery show. Here in season four, they're starting to really lean into some of those bigger mysteries and start to answer them. They have a goal of actually ending in season five, so they know where they're going, which the creators have said that was always their goal. They had a 5 season goal. They knew what they wanted to say, and they're going to finish where they wanted to finish. So they're telling the story that they want to tell in the way they want to tell it, which I always appreciate. Um, and it's just really good. The acting is incredible across the board. There's one actress that I see a lot of people complain about, but her character is important and I like her, so I don't mind. Um, but otherwise, it's really good. I think the first season, at least, you can stream either on Amazon Prime or Netflix. Um, so I would definitely say if you can find it, watch the first season, unless you're a total lightweight and horror is too much for you. And it could be. I mean, it's definitely, if nothing else, it's a little brutal when it gets violent. Um, but it is a really, really interesting show and very creative. And the mystery, I feel like, I mean, I'm only partway through season four now because it just started. But in the first 3 seasons, it just builds lore and builds mystery and gets you to this point where you're very curious and very interested about what's going on. And so, like, I want to see where it's going to go. So I'm really excited for it. Excited to have it back. It releases weekly in season four. So if you watch season one and you love it, I would say wait 8 weeks and get a free or 1 month subscription to MGM Plus and watch them all. There's another show on there called The Institute, which is a Stephen King show that was really good, based on his book, The Institute. So you make an argument for keeping that subscription for a month or two, but there's nothing so special on MGM Plus that I think you have to have it like you have to have Netflix or Hulu. Um, but uh, but if you enjoy this show somewhere free, getting a month subscription to it and binging through it, you could do it in a month and spend, I don't know, what is it, $8 to watch the whole thing, and I think it that would be worth it for sure. So that's my pitch. And then before we go, it sounds like, did you guys both watch all of Euphoria?
Well,
Three
Euphoria,
episodes
I've
are out
done.
now.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Is it only three already? And maybe it's four?
Four is going to be this weekend.
No way, really? Feels like it's been longer. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Euphoria, man. All right. So well, you know what? You should go first because I talked about Michael and you went first, so you should go first.
Okay. So I think sort of a slow start, personally. You and I have been going back and forth about it on Facebook Messenger, but I think the last 2 episodes, interesting, and the wedding, which was the most recent episode, insane. Yeah, so here we are 5, 10 years later. They're post college at this point. You've got Rue, who you would hope at this point has gotten out of the drug scene, but unfortunately, it's a no-go. She tried, but unfortunately, she owed a lot of money and she was kind of roped back in. You've got Jules, who's getting with older men again and not making the best decisions. I will say I'm loving this new Maddie and like her situation. Um, there's certainly, at least in the second episode, Andrew, when she's at the pool with Cassie, where I'm like, all right, she's has intent here. And then the fact that Cassie Howard is with Nate Jacobs, Jacob Elordi's character, and they're getting married, that wedding was so incredibly awkward because you have all of them reunited. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of emotions and I think bad memories that are kind of thrown into the mix. This is the first time you see pretty much the entire cast and even Eric Dane, who's making an appearance, which is pretty incredible considering he was very deep into ALS and he just passed away January, I believe. So that was, you know, good to have him in the series, despite all of the physical difficulties we can only imagine he was experiencing at the time. But that wedding is something else, and post-wedding is not something that I ever would have expected. And I will never look at my pinky toenail or pinky toe
The
the
same way.
way ever again.
Nope, 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 nope. It's funny. And you're so right. It's only three episodes. Crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll just first of all, never owe people money. I remember even as a kid, like just seeing, brass knuckles come out, fingers get broke. Like, just don't do it. So, man, like, yes, let's get into it for a second. Like, when he takes out the wire cutters, and it's like he's not what, and he didn't even like he just walked over and snip, and Nate Jacobs is like screaming as anyone would.
Such a
Blood.
comical scene though with Cassie Howard.
Cassie's just like, it's my wedding. Like, right? Is that
To me. Yeah, just
she's
crazy.
not even like tripping about his toe got cut off. It's all about her, which again, to me, it's like if my yeah, I'll say it because would never happen. If my fiance wanted to pay 50 grand for flowers at our wedding and she said, well, maybe we shouldn't get married, I'd be like, okay. Like, I'd be like, bye. Like, clearly, this wedding isn't about us, it's about you.
Right.
So, like, what, but whatever. Nate Jacobs is an idiot. Dude, like, just why? Why? And not to stereotype, I'm an asshole this episode, but like the guy even had that kind of like gangster kind of vibe. He had the accent going on, like
Right.
he was definitely from somewhere else, and he's like, "Yo, where is my money?" If you talk like that, I'll pay your money. And better yet, I wouldn't even ask for money from you. I would not even take a loan from you. Sorry. If you have a big chain and you look like potential like mobster shit, no. But Nate did it to himself, so I don't feel that bad for him. Yeah, I don't. Sorry. So the show itself, though, okay, for the first episode, like it's crazy because you just see Rue is not in a good place. She is now a drug mule, and it actually shows what drug mules go through, having to like take um drugs, fentanyl, and the balloons, lube up your throat,
Cocaine.
and
Yeah.
swallow it. And it's like you're at gunpoint basically to swallow the lube. I mean, swallow it, and if it bursts inside of you, you're dead. You just OD and die. Like, it's such a crazy life. Then, like, the person who's like, she talks like this and she's so weird and so nice, like, but she's like this, like, drug queen lord, with like her white supremacist, like, trashy like people, but they do business with this like gangster black dude, who's actually Ed, Mr. Echo from The Lost, so he's like in the show, and he owns strip clubs. So Rue, because Rue's like, yeah, she's lesbian. Not she doesn't even bi. She's lesbian. She's like in heaven. But still, it's like this show is so not what like the show used to be. It's honestly to me depressing. It's like, man, like at least in high school there was some innocence. Yeah, no, there's no innocence anymore. It's all gone. But honestly, as you said, it is a slow start. I do think it's like the show needs to end. I feel like, season one was probably the best, honestly.
I agree.
Season two, yeah, season two was cool, but then season three, it's like, okay, why are you here?
Right.
Let's just end this, let's just end this. But I will say this last, because the Ballad of Paladin, who is the parrot, you know,
Yes.
I, what's going to be cool is the war between and gangster Mr. Echo, which only Kevin will appreciate, because that's going to be a straight up like it feels almost Tarantino-esque in a sense, because I that whole even the way like the credits open was just like blah, Like, it just feels like old westerns or something. So here's what I'll say. The last thing I'll say, appointment television. I don't do it anymore. However, I will say on Sunday nights, yeah, I actually still will flip on HBO Max and watch Euphoria that night. And it's like a ritual thing. So I know Game of Thrones used to be that way, and but the only show that does that to me right now is Euphoria.
Yeah,
Maybe it's because it's Sunday night. And Sunday nights, like you get the Sunday scaries before work, and then
totally.
you need
Just
something to take
easing
your
your
mind off
way
of it.
into the week, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I'm gonna watch it, but
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like you said, it's sad. I had hope for Rue, and unfortunately, nice sounding lady who is surrounded by, as you said, not so nice, like these disheveled people that you would expect to be part of like a drug dealer situation. Uh yeah, she got Rue into like a bad spot and there's no way out. And if anything, this was the best thing that happened to Rue being changed over to this other guy with the strip clubs because she's living the life now. She's got more freedom. She's working her way up. And the fact that Jules, the plastic surgeon that she's with, I think he's a plastic surgeon, right?
No, I just remembered what happened to Rue at the end of the show, but keep going. Keep going with because you remember what happened at the end?
Right, but they didn't finish it. They just give you a glimpse of what's going to happen, sort of.
Well, for
Are.
me, what I remember was just like literally like, are you Rue? Like the cops come up
Right.
and like, yeah, yeah. So the fact that like to me that sucks. Like you're okay, so now you're already like being taken into the feds or whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's like you're done. So
Right.
is she living the life or is she now going to be,
Well, they set her up nicely, right?
oh, you know what? Maybe I'm not paying attention properly. This is hilarious. All right. So who
No,
said
it's
her?
okay. But how about the parrot scene at the end? I know, I know. Well, that song, I know that song from Stand By Me because they sing it. Corey
Oh,
Feldman sings it.
okay. All right.
And then how they kind of close and it comes out with the song and it's just like and I don't know, it was comical. It was comical.
It was comical. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's hope for this season to be saved, go out with a bang. I hope that they also figure out, because Fez is that his name?
They didn't obviously he died before they started taping,
Yeah.
but she's on the phone with who's supposed to be him from prison. Yeah.
They just should have killed him off screen too. I don't know why they're keeping him alive, but whatevs.
Because he was supposed to live.
Yeah, but just 10 years? There's a lot of ways to get killed off in 10 years.
Yeah, you
Like,
could have just
you
said he
know,
overdosed in jail or something, I guess.
yeah,
I don't know. But yeah, she was talking to him supposedly on the
yeah.
phone, and that was like his whatever.
I didn't get that. But anyway, Euphoria, I would say if you're completist, I mean it's crazy how what's her name? Like again, like Cassie, one I'm forgetting her name right now, like she's so much bigger now than she was when she started. So in a way, she's doing the show a favor by being there, but I'm sure it's also contractually she had to do it. But
Same with Jacob
yeah.
Elordi and same with Zendaya.
Yeah, but I think well, Zendaya was actually a big deal. Even I mean, she was the star of the show. But I think that what's her name was like
Meanie.
I saw like there was I don't know if it's true, but I saw like a thing of like the salaries, like how everyone's raised, and like Zendaya was like I think a million or something an episode even back in 2019 or whatever, and the other one was only like 50,000, like Cassie, because you had never seen Cassie anywhere until Euphoria. And then I mean, maybe you had, but I hadn't seen her. But I know
It was her
Zendaya,
breakout role, I think.
yeah. Because like even Zendaya was in like Spider-Man. Like, she was in Spider-Man, she was in the Disney stuff. Like she was already big.
Established. Yeah.
Elordi, though, to be fair, I hadn't heard of him either. So, but yeah.
He was in Kissing Booth, which I feel like was more just like pre-teen, teen. Wasn't as like widely showcased like this.
You know what I think, and it might be true. I heard that behind the scenes, like Zendaya cannot stand what's her name, guys? Cassie's
Sydney
name?
Sweeney.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sydney Sweeney.
She
Yes.
can't stand Sydney Sweeney, and I'm thinking there might be truth to that because they don't have a single scene together this season. So I think Zendaya might have had enough juice to be like, keep me the hell away from her.
Hmm. Well,
So
isn't there controversy between her and Elordi and then Elordi and Sydney Sweet? Like there's a three-way like triangular, maybe not together, but they all have beef with each other.
I hadn't heard about the Elordi thing, but I'm pretty certain that Zendaya and Elordi did date, like on a break, between like I think that she got with him, and then Holland got her back, so that I believe. But Zendaya is definitely not a Trumper, and I feel like Sydney Sweeney probably is.
Right.
So I could see that being an issue.
Totally.
But anyway,
Yep.
all right, we did it.
Yeah.
Mwah.
Yeah, I don't know much about this season because I think I've said before, I watched the first episode and I never went back of the entire show. Like I've not even seen two episodes of the show.
Yeah.
Um, for reasons, it was a little,
Too much.
um, yeah, just for things I've experienced in my life that I was just like, nah,
Yeah.
I don't need to relive that. Not that it's not great. I know there's, you know, a good amount of dark humor in there and all that. It's like it's not a obviously a bad show. It's doing really well. Um, but uh, but yeah, it just wasn't for me, so I never jumped on board. But I did hear that the wedding was pretty wild.
Yeah.
There's some bloody noses in there, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was like, note to self, do not do any of that at my wedding. Like I was just like, and I was just also just like, man, yeah, that was a crappy wedding.
Yeah, really bad. Okay.
yeah, cool. All right. Well, I don't have anything else for this week. I do think I'm really excited because I saw it before. Or saw that it was coming to the BBC a while back, the Lord of the Flies remake, which
Netflix.
is looks like it's amazingly done. I think it got pretty good reviews over in the UK. That is landing on Monday on Netflix, so I'm excited for that. Um, there's a show on Apple TV Plus that is a horror comedy series that has launched to very rave reviews in the beginning. It's called, I think it's Widow's Bay. It stars the dude from The Americans, and a couple other people, but that one looks good, so I'm gonna try and catch that. Um, and hopefully some other stuff. But let's see if we record in 2 weeks, it'll be the week before The Mandalorian comes out. So I'm gonna see The Mandalorian this month with my son. Um, maybe two of my sons, I'm not sure. Um, and then I don't know. I know we're starting to unload into some. It's a pretty good summer movie wise. I know my kids want to see that movie, The Backrooms, so we'll see that. But yeah, there's stuff in the pipeline for sure. I don't know about TV wise though.
I didn't know. Is the back rooms about that meme about like it's just literally like if you there's back rooms and it's like all hallways. It's very kind of like that show Severance, and there's these monsters that come out and
Sort
stuff.
of, yeah. I mean, it's so I don't. So the problem is, it's not made for me, right? Like my kids are like, "This is going to be scary," and I watched the trailer and I was like, "It's not
It's one of
scary."
these. Yeah.
And so it is based on this guy. He put this together and the ideas behind the idea of liminal spaces,
Yes.
and so he made all these creepy pastas and all these things that were wildly successful.
Chills, dude. The back rooms, it's a thing.
Oh
The
yeah.
fact that I'm getting chills is like I think it's real. I'm sorry. Like I think it's like I'm getting skeeved out.
One thing that's crazy, we're obviously tangenting. One thing that I saw that
2024.
was wild is that to make this movie, they physically built all of the sets.
Yeah.
And the lot that they use and the area that they use to build them is so big that people were actually getting lost on the sets because it was so big, which is creepy in its own right, because that's what the movie's about, right? You get lost in here, and it's a weird place, but
Yeah.
yeah,
2026 is gonna be man, this is gonna be the best movie year of like all time.
in a long time. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming this summer. Um, I saw the trailer for Zach Krieger's Resident Evil movie. That looks like it's going to be awesome. Um, so yeah, we should eat good this year, and I think we're just getting started. I think Project Hail Mary was a nice surprise to kick off the year. Like I said, I didn't expect that to be as huge as it was, and that was incredible. That was amazing. Like you said, Michael is blowing up, and there's a long way to go.
The Odyssey is going to be huge.
Oh
That's
yes,
gonna be big.
Um,
Yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest movie coming up this summer.
yeah, for
yeah.
the summer. Yes, for sure. And I actually saw this video explaining how and why Tony Stark is Doctor Doom. I'll send it to you. And it was actually pretty convincing. So I'm still Doomsday is going to
Oh
be
yeah, yeah.
so.
They're starting to release stuff. Like there's actually official press photos of um, Chris Evans for the movie. So like they're we're getting closer to an actual trailer. Which I'm definitely I want one trailer. I don't need another one. I'm buying my tickets. Like I'm good. You know, don't try and ruin the movie for me. Spider-Man comes out this year, I think.
This summer.
Yeah, like Supergirl comes out this summer.
Summer.
Like there's a lot, a lot. There's some movie called Dune 3 that I think some people are excited about. Yeah, it should be a hell of a year. But like I said, TV wise, I'm not sure what else is coming out in the next couple of weeks, but I'm sure we'll find something.
Yeah.
And yeah, so with that, I will say thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a great week or two, and we'll see you next time.